Let's continue our analysis of this indictment of President Trump as he's expected in a federal courtroom in Miami tomorrow for a full arraignment. What's in this document and why is the law being applied the way that it is against this man, where seemingly it was not applied to others? In fact, let's remind you once again, here was James Comey, July of 2016. Watch.
With prosecutors about what resolution may be appropriate given the evidence. In this case, given the importance of the matter, I think unusual transparency is in order. Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
And now I guess we're to assume that this reasonable prosecutor would have brought that case. Or is there different evidence? I don't know. Joe diGenova might help us out with this. He's the U.S. Attorney in District of Columbia, former, and he joins us now. Joe, thanks for joining us. This is something that we've been talking about for quite some time, you and I. This idea that the American people needs to know that there's a specific precedent in our system of justice and that the law is applied equally. Is it just whataboutism to say, well, Hillary and Trump, I mean, you know, it's a problem?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that what we are witnessing right now with the indictment of President Trump is a disgraceful abuse of prosecutorial discretion. Under no circumstances should President Trump have been indicted in this case. Now, what do I mean by that? Does it mean that he didn't break the law, that he didn't do things that he shouldn't have done? Of course it doesn't mean that. What it does mean is that in this country, we don't indict former presidents. We expose any wrongdoing that may have occurred. We make the public aware of it. And if that president is intending to run for public office again, the American people get to make a judgment about him. We don't indict them. This is the first time in the history of our country that any prosecutor has made this decision about a former president. It's absolutely unacceptable in a free society for this to happen. What the Justice Department has done through Jack Smith is traduced and besmirched the American system of justice. I'm sure they all pop champagne and feel great about, quote unquote, getting Donald Trump. But they didn't get Donald Trump. They got America. They destroyed an institution, the Department of Justice and the FBI along the way, and they've created an image around the world of a banana republic. Yeah. These people should all be ashamed of themselves. But the tragedy is their arrogance makes that impossible for them.
Joe, the fact that they've done this, and it is so unprecedented, and as you just laid out, this isn't how we do things in this country. You put it out there, and if there are political ramifications, so be it. It suggests that there's some sort of clear and present national security danger for President Trump to be in possession of these documents. I mean, right? But I didn't see that in the indictment, or did I miss something?
No, this is a joke. This thing about illegal retention of the documents, just the keeping of them is what this is about. By the way, I think the Espionage Act is void for vagueness. I think the Espionage Act is unconstitutional because it doesn't specifically define what it is that the crime is, and that's going to be part of the process of the president's lawyers, whoever they're going to be, filing motions to dismiss. But this is an outrageous abuse of power. This is not about endangering national security. The president didn't give these documents to anybody. He didn't sell them. He didn't give them to a foreign nation. He stupidly retained them. And the way this case should have been handled is that the Justice Department lawyers should have been, when you're powerful, your job is to be magnanimous. The government in this case was not magnanimous. It was mean-spirited, it was small-minded, it was partisan, and it was political. And the lawyers for Trump should have been better and better at what their job was, which was to get in there, get this thing settled, and take their client by the scruff of the neck and say, look, listen, Mr. President, you're going to give all these documents back. You're going to tell me where every one of them is. And by the way, I'm going everywhere I'm going to go, whether you like it or not, which includes your apartment, your office, your storage facility, and all the staff is going to cooperate. And if they don't, Mr. President, I'm quitting. I'm not your lawyer anymore. That didn't happen. and it should have happened. And shame on those lawyers, and shame on the Department of Justice lawyers.
As you know, Joe, there's another special counsel looking into President Biden's retention of classified documents. By the way, documents that he had in his possession without the benefit of being a former president of the United States. And unlike the Trump situation, there is actually a paper trail showing his son, Hunter Biden, who has many dealings with foreign governments, foreign adversaries, in fact. One of those emails actually details what appears to be the contents of one of these documents that President Biden had. I mean, one wonders where that indictment is, sir.
Well, it's interesting. But you've really hit the nail on the head, Larry, because it is Justice Department policy that a sitting president cannot be indicted while he is in office. So theoretically, even if the department were to conclude that Joe Biden has violated the law, which he clearly has, by the way, there is no doubt that he's gone way beyond Hillary Clinton. For example, he has documents that date from 1974 when he was a United States Senator. He stole documents from the United States Senate. He has documents from his time as vice president. He has no right to any of those documents. I mean, his period of thievery involving documents, forget the bribery schemes, his thievery of documents from the United States government covers a period of almost 50 years. There's no doubt that there is a basis for prosecuting him. But I would argue that he should not be prosecuted. Even if he didn't have the immunity that the Justice Department gives him, you don't prosecute even him, even for his vicious and violent violations. You don't use lawfare against the President of the United States or a former president. What you do is you publicize things and you embarrass them. You let the American people know what they've done and let them make a political judgment. But I doubt very much if there's going to be a public report on what Joe Biden did before the next election, because this Justice Department is into cover-ups. They covered up for the son for 5 years, a case pending in Delaware, and nothing being done about it. If I were the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, David Weiss, I would be so embarrassed by the public display of inaction that I would resign. But apparently, it's not in their blood up there in Delaware. And believe me, I'm a Delawarean. I was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware. What you are watching is Mississippi 1964. David Weiss is afraid that if he charges the president or the president's son, he'll never have lunch in that town again.
Yeah. Well, Joe, you've mentioned before, you don't rise to the level of U.S. Attorney for Delaware unless you are in tight with the Biden family. That's just how business is done up there for the last 50 years. You mentioned that there's not going to be an indictment from the Justice Department with Joe Biden, but what about the House of Representatives? There is another remedy. We've seen the impeachment process before. Do you see anything here rising to the level of impeachment, or at least an impeachment hearing?
Absolutely. There's an impeachable offense going back from the time he was vice president through now. There's no doubt that he has continued to lie about his relationship with his son and his son's business partners. So the question remains, what are the consequences for a sitting president who's involved in an ongoing criminal conspiracy? Talk about obstructing justice. He and his family are obstructing justice right now. They're also enjoying the benefits of the bribery that was paid to them, now estimated to be around $30 million from various countries where the then vice president had policy jurisdiction over those countries and used his son as a conduit for the payment of those bribes. I don't think there's any doubt that Joe Biden has committed a series of impeachable offenses and that he should be impeached. That is the remedy. That is the remedy that the Constitution provides.
Joe, just a minute left here, and you had some pretty, I think, pointed constructive criticisms for President Trump's attorneys. At this point, he faces arraignment tomorrow. What should his legal stance be here?
He should do everything he can to get the case dismissed, challenge the constitutionality of the statute, go after prosecutorial misconduct, everything his team can come up with to get the case dismissed. They obviously are not going to ask for a change of venue because they actually got a better venue by having the case brought in Florida. But that's what they have to do. They have to fight this on the law, and they have to they have to challenge it on the facts as well. They have to present testimony that the evidence was cherry picked, that the government only chose those facts which were helpful to it and ignored facts that were exculpatory. And they need to bring up the fact in front of the jury that he's being treated than Hillary Clinton, than James Comey, than all the people who tried to frame the problem. I would bring in Crossfire Hurricane as part of the defense to show how the government tried to frame him before, and this is a continuation of that. This is a very big case. You have to make this about 7 years of going after him.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Joe diGenova, thank you for joining us on a very sobering topic, sadly. We worry about where this is headed. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.